Marius, a high school student, is looking for his English notebook. He is going through the things in his room but can't find the notebook anywhere. He goes to the living room, where his mother is doing some exercise, and asks his family if anyone has seen his notebook. His father admits he wanted to check his English skills, so he borrowed the notebook. His father then returns the notebook to Marius. Marius' younger sister adds she can also speak good English. Marius leaves for school. As he is approaching the schoolyard, he sees a group of kids looking towards the roof. The group says there is a girl, Frida, on the roof and the school officials are trying to help her get down safely. Some of the students comment on Frida seeing a psychologist. Marius is in a class with his classmates. The professor is talking about upper education, and that the students need to decide on their next step. Frida gets up and leaves the classroom. The professor tries to stop her, but she explains there is no point in staying when she will not go back to school next year. Marius is with his classmates in the PE gym. They are walking in a circle 2 by 2, holding each other's hands. They seem to be practicing the prom dance. In the hallway, 2 students are talking about the prom and who they will go with and what they will wear. One of the girls, Lee, has been invited by 2 boys, one of them being Marius, and she needs to decide who she will go with. Another girl, who is in charge of the prom organization, tells Lee she needs to hurry and decide. She seems stressed from needing to organize the event and asks the girls to decide as soon as possible. Marius is in a toilet. He is about to finish and walk out of it, but there is a girl in front, waiting to go to the toilet as well. Marius is reluctant to open the door, as the person before him left the mess in the toilet, and so he decides to clean it up before the girl walks in. He finally opens the door and goes outside. The girl says thank you and walks in the toilet. Marius is at the cafeteria. He wishes to sit next to Lee, but there is already a boy sitting next to her and talking to her. During the class, Marius holds his hand to get a word, and he suggests to the professor and to the whole class to make study groups before the exams. The professor thinks it's a great idea. After the class, the professor asks Marius to come and talk to him for a second. He wants to know if Marius can be in a study group with Frida, since she is relatively new in school and she still hasn't gotten used to the new environment. Marius accepts, but he is not thrilled by the idea, as he was hoping to be in a group with Lee. The professor also adds he asked Marius because he is the most resourceful one in the class. Marius and his friends are at the ski club. They are eating ice cream and discussing whether it's strange to eat ice cream in winter. They also talk about Lee and about which one of them is going to sleep with the girl first. One of the boys says he is a Muslim, and he is not going to sleep with girls, but he will love them instead. He asks a man sitting nearby, isn't it better to love the girls than just sleep with them? Marius is at his home. He is looking through the photos of Lee on Facebook. He seems like his mind is wandering somewhere far away. The next day, Marius has a study group session with Frida. He finds her in one of the classrooms, but Frida doesn't want to open the door. She says Marius is only with her in the group because he was asked to by the professor. Marius is at first reluctant to admit the truth, but he eventually gives up and says he wouldn't be studying with her otherwise. Frida unlocks the door, and Marius enters and sits by the table and prepares for studying. Frida says Marius is one of the nice kids who always do the right thing, unlike her. She wants Marius to tell her about a crazy thing he did, but he doesn't say anything. Frida asks him to show her something instead, and then she takes his salami sandwich and throws it on the window. Marius opens her drink and spits in it, and, as a response, Frida looks like she is going to drink her cola, but she then spills it on the desk. They start arguing, and Marius unexpectedly slaps Frida. He tells her that he can now hit him back, but she kisses him instead. They continue arguing, and Frida wants to leave the classroom, but Marius won't let her exit through the door. Finally, they both fall through the door to the other side. Frida hits Marius with his bag and leaves in the other direction. Marius is in the classroom full of students. He has a cut on his face from the fight, and the students are discussing what happened. They think it wasn't Marius' fault but Frida's. While everyone is talking about the incident, Frida walks in the classroom. She realizes everyone is staring at her, and she decides to leave. Before she exits, she turns around towards the crowd and yells what? Later on, Marius is taking professional photos at school with his classmates. While he is waiting for his turn, he overhears a conversation between the girls nearby, who say that someone made a video of Frida shouting and posted it online. The video quickly spread and was shared multiple times. One of the girls thinks posting the video was unkind towards Frida, as she almost offed herself earlier. Marius looks like got worried about Frida. He finds her number on the list and tries to call her, but nobody answers the phone. After class, Marius decides to go to Frida's house to make sure she is okay. He arrives in front of her house and sees her bag inside, the same bag that she hit Marius with. Marius comes inside the house to see if Frida is there. He climbs up the stairs and sees Frida's unmovable hand in the bathroom. He quickly opens the door thinking Frida might have ended her life, but Frida is completely fine, and she is listening to the music in the bathtub. She gets scared once she sees Marius, and he explains he only came to check if she is fine, and that he will now be leaving. He finds his shoes and leaves the house. Frida looks a bit puzzled by what just happened. Marius is walking home through the snow. He finally arrives home, and his family is having dinner, and some of their friends are there. They ask Marius to join them, but he says he will eat later and doesn't look to be in a good mood. Marius is about to go to his room, but the group at the table wants to hear about his English skills, and so they ask him to pronounce some complex English words. The next day, during the class, the professor is explaining about filling out the work experience information, and Frida asks if she can write in there the information about someone breaking into her home and seeing her naked in the bathroom. The professor gets confused by her question and says she can't really write that kind of information in the work experience section, but a different kind of information. After class, Frida and Marius meet on the stairs. For a second, it looks as if they are about to argue again. But then Frida asks if Marius thought she looked nice when he saw her in the bathroom. Marius doesn't know what to answer. He says he doesn't know as he didn't observe that closely. As they are about to walk away from each other, Frida says that since Marius saw her naked, she now needs to see him naked as well. They go into a music room. Frida sits by the synthesizer, and Marius takes off his pants and shirt. He is about to take off his clothes completely, but Frida says it's enough, and now they are even as they have both seen each other naked. During one of the classes, Marius becomes a bit feisty with his female classmates, and they ask him what is happening. Marius explains he is a bit restless since he hasn't been training for a while. Marius is getting ready for his skiing practice, and he accidentally likes one of Frida's photos on Instagram. He immediately deletes the like, but Frida sees it and sends a message to Marius, asking if he is stalking her. They text each other for a while and flirt, and Marius tells her he needs to go to the training. He also tells her about his funny tight training suit. Marius' mother tells him to hurry, and they leave. During the practice, as Marius is skiing with his colleagues, he sees Frida on the bridge. He looks for her after the training, but she is nowhere to be found. They finally meet, and Frida asks if he was looking for her. Being stubborn and proud, Marius says no, and Frida walks away. Marius follows her and they climb to an area where, during the summer, it is possible to jump in the swimming pool. Frida suggests going swimming to an actual swimming pool. Marius and Frida get into the indoor pool and make a competition on who is going to get to the other side of the pool first. Frida wins, and Marius wants to congratulate her, but she thinks he only let her win, so she suggests competing one more time, but this time by going underwater. Marius and Frida dive underwater, and she counts to 3, but their game gets interrupted by a group of swimmers who have a training session at the pool. Frida and Marius leave the pool. As they are sitting on a school bench, a kid passes by, carrying a trumpet. Frida wants him to play something for them, but the kid wants some money for it. Frida takes the kid's cap and promises to return it as soon as she starts playing for them. Marius interferes and tries to take the cap away from Frida, and seeing Frida and Marius argue, the kid starts playing. Frida and Marius are at the library, talking and looking through the books. Marius asks if Frida is really going to change schools next year, and she says she is not sure yet. They go outside to the rooftop, play with snow and throw some snowballs at each other. Marius asks Frida why she wanted to end. She says she doesn't know, it is not just one thing that made her consider it. Frida adds she started believing that she is bad and unsuccessful compared to other students. Marius assures her that she is not bad or unsuccessful, but cool and different from the others. Frida shows him a video of cows dancing, and Marius thinks it's a good dance but a bit out of rhythm. Frida suggests that the two of them try dancing as well, and she puts on the music on her phone while they are practicing. Frida shows Marius the dance moves, and he follows her. Their dance lessons are interrupted by the guard who heard some noise and came to check if there is anyone on the roof. Frida and Marius manage to hide at the last minute as the guard is saying hello. When the guard leaves, he locks the door behind him, and Marius and Frida are left on the roof and can't go inside anymore. Frida jokes about jumping down to get out of the roof, and Marius suggests looking for other exits. They manage to enter one of the classrooms, but a couple of seconds after they enter, the alarm starts ringing and the guard appears again. Frida and Marius run away and find a shelter in one of the classrooms. The guard passes the classroom they are in and continues searching for the fugitives, and Marius and Frida kiss during that time. While they are occupied with their intimate moment of kissing, the guard returns and opens the door. Frida manages to escape, but Marius is caught and later interrogated by the guard. Marius claims his name is Martin, but the guard doesn't believe him. As they are talking, Frida reappears and pushes the guard on the floor. The guard falls through the glass shelf and down into the floor, and Marius and Frida escape from the school. They arrive at the football field, and Marius says this was one of the sickest things he has ever done. They decide to part and go home in the opposite directions. Marius is in his room watching videos and having some intimate moments, and his mother enters and interrupts him. She realizes Marius is all sweaty and believes him to be sick. She checks the window in Marius' room and whether it is cold in the room because of it. Marius tries to explain he is fine, but she is persistent. The next day in school, Lee approaches Marius to let him know she has decided to go to prom with him. Marius feels awkward about the situation because he spent so much time with Frida in the meantime, and was probably planning to go with her. He says he has gladly accepted his invitation, but during the class he looks worried. Frida finishes her assignment, and before she leaves the class, she leaves a small note on Marius' desk. She is hoping to see him later tonight. Marius is at the party with Lee and some of his classmates. All of them seem to be couples and most of them are kissing. Marius feels as if he is unsure about the whole situation. Lee thinks he is sick, and Marius admits he is. He excuses himself and says he will probably go home and rest. He goes outside and sends a message to Frida, hoping to see her soon. As he is walking, Lee appears behind him and offers to accompany him home since he doesn't feel well. Marius tries to tell her there is no need to, but Lee is determined. Lee realizes they are walking in the direction opposite to Marius' home, and they turn around and start walking towards the other side of the street. The following day, the students are in the PE gym listening to instructions regarding the prom dance. Marius is on one side of the row, and Frida on the other one. She is confused about what happened the previous night and why he never appeared. The two of them try to text during the break, and Frida decides to leave the dance rehearsal. The girl in charge of organizing the prom tries to stop her by telling her she will be marked as absent, but Frida answers she didn't know the prom rehearsal counts as a class. Marius is with his friends at the ski club. They are eating ice cream again. His friends want to know what is happening with him since he doesn't talk much and seems angry and upset. And Marius almost opens up to one of his friends about Frida, but he then sees Lee and her friend coming towards them, so he decides not to say what is really troubling him. Lee and her friend enter the ski club and remind the boys the store is soon closing, so they all leave. Marius and Lee are in his room, kissing, and Marius tells her she is really nice. Lee answers he is nice as well. His mother calls from the other room to say the others have arrived as well, and Marius tells Lee he will be there in a second, as soon as he changes. Marius comes downstairs and his parents and classmates are looking at the school photos from the photo shooting. His mother is complimenting all the students and saying how lovely they look in the photos. As she is going through the photos, she realizes her son Marius is turned towards one side. She asks Marius about it, and he explains it's due to the cut on his face. His mother is a bit dissatisfied that her son is the only one whose picture is taken sideways. As they are observing the photos, the students start talking about the incident that happened between Frida and Marius, the one in which she hit Marius with his bag. Marius' mother is upset that her son got hit. She says there were consequences of what happened as he got a cut on his face and had to turn sideways during the photo shoot session. Marius, Lee, and their classmates are at the party, and Marius's friend Trim is going to play the piano later that night. First, there is a group of girls dancing a modern dance, and then there is a gig. Marius and Lee are in the audience watching the performances. Lee is enjoying the night, but Marius looks absent-minded. He suddenly walks away from the party and goes into the toilet. Lee looks sad that Marius left her all alone. She noticed he has been acting differently as of recently. Her friends ask her what happened, and once she explains, they advise her to go after him. Lee walks into the toilet and closes the door. Marius is confused, and Lee explains she is ready to sleep with him and wants him to be happy. Marius is not thrilled by the idea, and he reminds her Trim will be playing the piano on the stage and walks out. Trim is playing in a band, and the crowd is cheering for him. Frida is not at the party. She is at home with one of her friends. Her mother comes in to check on them, and they are laughing and eating waffles before dinner. Marius is hanging out with his friends outside, and Lee's friend comes by and asks Marius, in front of everyone, why he doesn't want to sleep with Lee. Marius is completely taken by surprise and doesn't know what to answer. He finally says that he didn't want to sleep with her in a toilet, as that is not a place for such an intimate act. His group of friends is curious to hear why he is avoiding Lee, and Lee's friend adds that Lee believes Marius doesn't like her anymore. She says she has an empty house tonight, and Marius accepts going there with Lee. The group follows them all the way to the house, and Lee's friend shows them the room, dims the lights and leaves. Lee and Marius take off their clothes and sleep together. The group is still in front of the window, hoping to hear some sounds, and so Lee and Marius make some sounds. The group starts laughing, and they leave. The following day at school, Frida pushes Lee during PE class, and Lee falls on the floor. Lee doesn't completely understand why Frida pushed her. Marius is confused by the two girls fighting over him, but he doesn't say anything. Lee is at Marius's home. She is helping set the table for dinner, and Marius's family is there as well. They are discussing what happened to Lee during PE class, and Lee explains Frida has some mental troubles. She says it's a pity what Frida did to her. Marius's sister is listening to Lee and asking questions about what happened. Marius's mother suddenly receives a call and finds out about the vandalism. The next day, Marius's mother accompanies him to school so she could talk to him and his professor about what happened. Marius doesn't have much to say, and his mother speaks instead of him. She asks Marius if it is true that it was Frida who did it, and he accompanied her, and Marius admits it is true. The professor explains the guard recognized Marius' photo from the yearbook. He is puzzled to hear what happened as he was the one who suggested to Marius to study with Frida. Back at home, Marius is eating his breakfast as his father is trying to discuss what happened. His father is glad that things have mostly gotten solved for Marius and his grades are fine, but Marius is still pretty frustrated and wants his father to stop talking. His father doesn't understand what he is doing wrong. He tries to calm the situation down, but Marius is still in a bad mood. During the class, Marius sees Frida through the window, and he asks if he can go to the toilet. He waits for Frida in the hallway and asks if they can talk for a couple of seconds. Frida at first ignores him, then insults him and calls him a coward, and then stops to listen to what he has to say. They start arguing, and Marius says Frida likes to be different, and to be a psycho. He asks her why she never tried to be normal. Frida is hurt by his words. The other classmates appear in the hall. Marius walks away, and Frida starts fighting with Lee and her friend. They tell her Marius is not in love with her. Marius comes back, pushes her into one of the classrooms, and locks the door. Frida is trying to get out, but the boys are holding the door. Marius is walking home on foot, and it is snowing outside. Some time passes. Marius is regularly doing his ski training, and Frida misses some classes in school. She is talking on the phone with her mother and assures her she is fine, eating waffles with her friend. In reality, she is all by herself in the room. The next day in school, the student finds out Frida tried to but luckily didn't do it. Marius feels sick once he hears what happened and goes to the toilet. During the class, there are support groups, and the students are talking to teachers and counselors about how they are feeling. Most of the students in Marius' group open up and talk about their feelings, but Marius expresses anger and deep unhappiness. He walks out of the support group session, and the other students are confused by his behavior. Marius is in his bed. He doesn't feel well. His mother tries to comfort him, but he tells her to leave him alone. He takes the scissors and cuts his tight training suit. Marius decides to go visit Frida's house. He walks inside and enters the room. Frida is in there with her friend, and they are wearing prom dresses. Once Frida sees Marius, she tries to push him out. Her mother appears and says she will call the police. Frida warns Marius that her mother is serious about calling the police, and Marius explains he only wants to talk to her. Marius admits to Frida that he is in love with her, and she answers that she doesn't love him back. Marius spends the day in bed, crying, and his mother comforts him. In school, Marius apologizes for his recent behavior to Lee, and she accepts his apology. It's prom night, and the whole class is all dressed up and ready for the dance. They start going out in twos, and Marius is holding Lee's hand. He looks behind him and sees Frida among his classmates. She is dancing with one of her friends. Marius unexpectedly starts dancing to his own rhythm, away from the group. Frida joins him, and they start dancing their cow dance and enjoying themselves. Marius's parents are confused by their son's actions, but they keep clapping and supporting him. The movie ends with Marius and Frida dancing and smiling.